Si ade fun leba o, fiebun lezi oluwa, logomon kachu baje, awa morere, ire jawa o, ire jawa o. Shua le balaye, shua le balaye, ile bara mara fi bale, baba ile ago. Ago, Baba ile ago.
Hey.
Oshun bale o, ye bale o. Oshun bale o, ale poike to bale o. Oshun bale o, ye bale o. Oshun bale o, ale poike to bale o.
Hey.
Oh.
Before you go into more Orisha songs.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Why don't you read chapter 4, please?
Okay. I'm going to read chapter 4, but I'll tell you what I like to do.
Yes, please.
Before I begin to do that, we got a call today from a friend of mine in New Jersey.
You got it.
Your home state.
Mm-hmm.
And Lawrence was telling me that he had 2 books of mine. This one.
Well, not that one. But
Okay, he doesn't have this one. I have 2 books. One is The Snake, and it is not this one.
No.
It is the first original copy of The Snake.
It's above your shoulder.
Oh.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Ah,
Yeah.
how did I do that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Sometimes things like this happen. This book was originally published and a mistake was made. The mistake had to do with the language. For those who've been following this reading, you'll know that there's there's several characters in the story who have Southern accents. Kojo's Kojo's grandfather has an accent. He has this accent that comes from Georgia. And I'm talking with my friend about different accents and different kinds of ways people speak the same language. For example, we came up with a very interesting little thing. We all know that we speak English in America, right? And you speak English in the United Kingdom, that's Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. But people also speak English in India. People speak English in New Zealand, and Australia, and Canada, and Ghana, and South Africa, and Jamaica, and Antigua, and Barbados, and the Virgin Islands, and on and on and on. Mm-hmm. People speak Portuguese, of course, in Brazil. And also, Portuguese in Portugal, and in Brazil, and it's a slightly different Portuguese, but they also speak Portuguese in Angola and Mozambique, and Portuguese Goa, a little island off the coast of India.
So it's Portuguese, but it's got a little differences in it, or English and a little differences in it?
Well, you know, in the same way that people might speak the same language, but have different accents in different places. Mm-hmm. For example, we were in Ghana, mm-hmm. and people speak, English, but it's not the English we speak because there's different accent tones. It's how you get that sort of lilting, mm-hmm. Tonal flavor. I think it has something to do with the fact that people come from speaking a tonal language, like let's say Ga. They keep the tones mm-hmm. and speak the language.
Oh, okay.
I as a psycholinguist, a writer who's I think is using language to my best possible effect, it occurs to me sometimes that the way a lot of African Americans speak English, of course, is not at all the standard you find on television and so forth and so on. I've had arguments with editors about terms or words the way I'm using them. For example, I use the example of what it is, and the editor, the publisher, whoever it is, wants to turn it into what is it? And I'm saying, no, that doesn't have the same, it doesn't carry the same baggage of qualities. What is it is just what is it. But what it is has certain kind of inferences that it has nuances that go way beyond what is it. What is it is very, to me, very, very Germanic and what it is, depending on you see it, what it is. Hey, you might be asking about a dope deal or talking to this young lady that you think you might want to hug, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to have to go on and on about that. And then, of course, you have a language like Spanish, where Spanish is spoken one way in southern Spain and another way in northern Spain, and spoken another way in all of Latin America, where they speak Spanish, from Colombia to Panama, Nicaragua, San Salvador, or Mexico, and carry on and carry on. And then the Spanish that some people speak in the United States, they coined it Spanglish. You know, ¿Quieres usted lunch?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want lunch?
Yes, yeah.
You know, what is that place called? A loncheria.
Right, right.
You know, a barberia. So having said all of that, I'm suggesting that if anyone is interested in purchasing this book, if you find it on some bookshelf somewhere, you might want to buy it just for the collector's value of it.
Right, it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. But please be aware that the book was printed by someone who was speaking another English other than the English that I was using for.
United Kingdom English, more like.
He's using United Kingdom English in the snake. I love the cover because Lola Salena just put her foot in it when she did that.
But also, the original snake has one paragraph in it that Snake 2020 doesn't have.
Oh.
Okay, and that would be interesting for those who would like to do a
Want to do
comparison.
little details.
Yeah, details, yes. But the publisher for the Snake 2020 found that that one paragraph was just a bit more than they would
Oh,
accept.
yes, this is a bit too lascivious, is that it?
That's correct.
In other words, just fucking nasty.
Well, I don't know. If it's nasty,
Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know. It was
Well,
nasty.
I'm glad to hear that
Okay.
because I wrote it that way.
Okay, but we deleted it
We'll
so
leave
that the
we'll leave
Snake
that there for
2020
the
could be
moment.
published.
We'll leave that there.
Okay, and also in the Snake 2020 there are pictures as opposed to just,
The snake, yes.
yeah, okay?
Got you. Shall I begin?
Yes, please.
Okay. We're on chapter 4. And it's really crazy because chapter 4 only seems to be one page, which means I would be going from chapter 4 to chapter 5. And I know what happened because I was there when it happened. Chapter 4 was cut into chapter 5. And so it looks like chapter 5 goes on forever. And
Well, whenever you're ready.
that's what happened. All right. Kojo had to resist the sudden urge to laugh at the situation. Am I crazy or what? Here I am sitting up here in one of the most notorious hoe gardens in West Africa, listening to some clever stuff that a bona fide hoe has just thought of about being forced to prostitute herself part-time in order to pay school fees. There was a time when it was the sick mother or the father in the cancer ward. Now it's, I'm doing it to get through school. And despite his cynicism, he believed her. The truth was on her face and in her eyes.
Wow.
He followed her eyes as she avoided looking at the large white man who had taken a seat at the next table. Somebody you know? It wasn't necessary to point at the white man. She knew who he was referring to. He is one of my regular customers. If you want, I can send her off. No need to do that, Patience. Go on and take care of business. Okay. Come back soon, okay? Okay, I'm coming. What else was there to say? He tried to blot out the sight of the luscious young body going to serve the gross white man. I should have copped it just to keep her out of his hands for a few minutes. Yeah, he felt a moment of intense jealousy. The slave market is still open. Come in and buy anybody you want. Somehow, he wanted to rationalize the situation away. There ought to be a law against African women selling their bodies to Europeans. There ought to be a law against African women selling their bodies to Europeans. No, that wouldn't make sense. How can you legislate an individual's use of herself? He winked at her as she walked past his table. She acknowledged his wink with a brief, warm smile. How did this happen? I don't know. But here we are in chapter 5.
Okay. Please read on.
He sat in his darkened room, staring out of the window at the pitch black streets, feeling frustrated because the electricity was off. He felt Ghana creeping up on him. He was beginning, after a day and a half, to expect the unexpected. If the lights are on, the water's off. If one taxi driver tries to overcharge, the other one offers a free ride. Comfort Lartey, a Mormon. I would have believed that she would go that route in my wildest dreams. Why? Pull back that kind of logic. It is Ghana, Accra, West Africa. The why here operates at a different rhythm. No way I can get into it this soon. The forms of the few stragglers making their way through the streets, all of them with loads on their heads, gave him a sense of mystery. Where are they going in the dark? 11:15 p.m. and there's nothing to do but go to bed. He decided not to go down to the desk to request a candle. Too much of an effort. Just wait till tomorrow to write. He sprawled on his bed, placed his hands behind his head, and went into a thought mode. 8 years ago, I came here and it blew my mind. I was out of the diaspora. I was back home. Back home. I didn't see the clogged up, stinking drains, the sickios working 8-10-hour days, the poverty. I was back home, and that was all that mattered. Being home meant no white discrimination, being forced to deal with prejudice and racism. I was in a black place run by blacks for blacks. I didn't see how well or how badly anything was being run. I was home, and that was all that mattered. The sounds of distant drums interrupted his flashback thinking. Always some drumming somewhere, usually at night. Wonder what it's for. The meal he had shared with Comfort was becoming a memory, but he knew he would have to wait until tomorrow for more food. Who would be open or selling anything to eat this late? He made a mental note to buy something to snack on. So Comfort is a Mormon. Why couldn't you become a Muslim or a Buddhist? A Buddhist is something reasonable. A Mormon. Sorry, Mom. The percentages have been cut down by a big one. Grace Hlovor, dear V Queen. I guess you have to start praying that she hasn't become some sort of weird something or other. No, not conservative Grace. It would take tons of magic to turn her around. He had already prepared his mind for a staid, well-bred, conservative evening with his old girlfriend. He smiled, remembering the 2-day ordeal he had to go through to get her to kiss him. The kiss led to a month of lovemaking that always ended with Grace silently asking the Lord for forgiveness, and sometimes not so silently. What a hell of a trip the Europeans laid on the heads of our brothers and sisters over here. Crazy madness. They did a number on us too, but that was part of the conditioning process, a way to cool us out. How could the Africans allow themselves to be taken on the European religion trip? And the Muslims and all the other foreign religions that had come in to create guilt, paranoia, neurosis. Stop it, Kojo. Leave the brothers and sisters alone. You're being patronizing. If they didn't want it, they wouldn't have it. Yeah, but what the hell do they want it for? A small, persistent voice screamed in the back of his skull. Patience. I wonder if that's her real name. I wonder if she was telling me the truth. Student sex worker. Been here, how long? A day and a half. It seems like layers of stuff is beginning to pile up around me. Tomorrow, Thursday. He felt tempted to get up and scribble an agenda, something he had distanced himself to do over the years. Nope, no agendas, I'll just let it happen. Aside from the preset things. Grace, you've been a blessed brother. How many men can say they've had the opportunity to deal with two sisters as fine as Comfort and Grace? Except for that hair thing. How could they start you and press their hair like that all the time? On the day it's done, it looks slick and shiny. 3 days later, it looks like a rat's nest, and they don't seem to notice. He had had a mean-spirited argument with Grace about her rat's nest. She was 6 days after her latest perm. No, Grace. I'm sorry, baby. You can't go out with me with your hair standing all up of your head like that. And why not? Because it looks like a rat's nest, that's why. You can't tell me how to dress my hair. I'm not trying to tell you how to dress your hair. I'm telling you I don't want to go out in the street with you with your hair standing all up over your head like that. Oh! Morning. He dropped his bath towel around his waist, took up his toy bucket with the soap and the net towel in it, and took a cold bath. They call it bathing, and performed the ritual religiously, every evening and every morning, and sometimes in between. Cleanest people on earth. The bathing finished, he dressed and turned to the next item. What and where do I eat? The ladies who changed the linen and the men who swept and mopped were always anxious to make a few extra CDs doing errands, but he wasn't enchanted by kinky, smoked fish and pepper, chiton, or fufu and light soup with goat. He had forced himself during his first visit to be honest about his neutral urge for the ordinary food, the kinky, the fufu, the stews of various kinds. They seemed to stress soupness, overcooking, and lack greens of any kind. Strange, with all these vegetables around here, they're treated like second-class citizens. Morning, sir. Good morning. He wanted to ask, when will the lights come back on? But realized that the question would be wasted on the desk clerk. How would he know? 10 a.m., almost midday for the people who got up at 6 a.m. every day. Kojo stood on the top step of the hotel entrance, watching the flow of traffic. It's like a river of people. Young people, old people, crippled people, determined people, resigned people. He carried a medium-sized shoulder bag with his money, passport, and keys inside, along with a clean shirt and a tube of deodorant. No need to get out and funky and stay that way. He made his way to the stream of people arbitrarily going left. It'll stimulate my appetite to walk a few blocks. I need to exercise. He was beginning to feel the urge for a serious capoeira workout. Before boarding the plane in Los Angeles, he had made a conscious decision to give himself a week's holiday from the workouts. After all these years of working out almost every day, I can't lose too much of an edge after a week. The color of the woman and her direct look startled him. It was a face in the crowd going the other way. A charcoal-colored woman, middle-aged, sculptured features. Her direct look was not flirtatious and not obnoxiously curious. It was simply the look of someone who was looking at something she had never seen before. Probably from a village and never seen an African-American before. He had come to grips with being an African-American in Africa during the course of his first visit. Got to remember, Kojo, we're a Creole people. That means we have some admixtures that the average African had never even thought about. You'll see people on the coast with complexions like us, because they were the ones who met the ships, remember? I think the basic difference with us has to do with the Indian connection with our Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, Seminole ancestors. Folks in Africa tend to disregard our Indian connection. Their focus is on the white boys in our bloodstream. Kojo paused to stare at himself in a shop window. We are a Creole people. Yeah, Granddad, you're right on the money. As a walnut brown skinned person with semi-kinky hair, he had never thought of himself as fair-skinned or red. But in Ghana, he was surprised to hear descriptions of himself as fair-skinned. Grace was the first one to cue him in. I knew a girl in secondary school who was fair, like you. Fair, like me? You think I'm fair-skinned? You're fairer than me. I'm black. People, as a rule, were generally darker than most African Americans, but he still had a small problem with being considered fair. Well, I guess Adam Clayton Powell, Malcolm X, Lena Horne, Eartha Kitt, Aretha Franklin, Dexter Gordon, Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, Coretta King, Vonetta McGee, Jasmine Guy, Sinbad, Red Fox, Joe Louis, Veronica Porsche, and a whole bunch of other people would be considered white folks. It was a tricky sector of the forest. He had been told that most dark-skinned West Africans considered themselves inferior to the Europeans. The person who explained it, a so-called half-caste, put it bluntly. Well, look at it this way, Kojo. Europeans have all the good stuff. They're obviously living cleaner, healthier, saner lives than the Africans. The Africans are not stupid. They look around and they see how wretched things are here, and how good things are there. So they have no choice but to reach the conclusion that the people who are responsible for this better life must be superior people. It's built into a number of expressions we have. If you want something done properly, you say, do it, white man. Kojo had fought the idea of the Africans, his people, being addicted to an inferior mindset. He still fought it, but found himself surrendering to facets of the accusation. Kojo, you don't have to take my word for it. Use the evidence of your own eyes. He had seen it at 17. It happened graphically one morning at the post office when a Dutch woman strolled in with her two little blonde demons, and all the people in the post office rushed to admire them, to pat their blonde hair, act adoring in their eyes. And on the pavement outside, a black woman selling oranges and bananas had two little dirty children in semi-rags that no one seemed to say anything to or to admire. He had seen it often at 17. An impressionable age, y'all. One word from one Lebanese was enough to put 50 African bodies into motion. He had discussed it with his parents when he returned to the States. Yeah, we checked that out the first time we went there. I saw some scenes in Côte d'Ivoire that almost turned my stomach. In Jenga, you remember Uncle Tom in the Hotel Duville? Never will forget him. The way he used to bow and grin and suck up to the whites. It wasn't about being a servant. It was about being servile. The manager of the hotel used to slap him on his bald head all the time, and he just grinned a little more and say, "Oui, oui, monsieur, oui." It's kind of hard to figure Ghana out. I have a suspicion that things would have been a bit different if Nkrumah had lived and remained in power longer. First off, I don't think the colonization process would have happened. The economic neo-colonialization by the World Bank and the funny money interests, that is the FMI. Dad and Mom got to scribble a few lines tonight. The car brushing his right leg told him he was walking on the wrong side of the street. He crossed over. I'll at least be able to see who's running over my body. The so-called coffee shop in La Bonnie. Driver, you know the coffee shop in La Bonnie? A casual nod indicated. Yes, I know the place. Kojo settled back to look at the people. The whole thing was a giant script. He took mental notes of the hundreds of actions that he could catalog. The woman with the baby strapped to her back who was lifting a tray of bananas from her head to sell a few to a nonchalant customer. The man pissing against the wall, ignoring the people all around. The scene took him back to the first time he'd seen a woman lift her skirt and piss. He described what happened to Comfort, who showed him one evening over a drain in Osu how it was done. It's not unusual, Kojo. We do this from an early age. You pull the crotch of your panties to one side and let fly. What else can we do? There are few public toilets and they are far between. The swarms of people began to thin out as they left the central section to go to the posh residential area called Labone. The contrast was interesting. Labone wasn't Beverly Hills, but it was a long way from the squalor of Jamestown, Nema, and Inner Osu. The Labone coffee shop. I'll have red. And what will you take to drink? Make it ABC. Red. Black-eyed peas liberally soaked, cooked in palm oil with a few slices of plantain. He sipped his beer. Waiting for the black-eyed peas that the Ghanaians call beans. 11:25, and I'm drinking again. Kojo found it hard to put the alcohol consumption into the proper perspective. Seems like every time I turn around, there's a bottle of beer waiting for me. Better watch it. I might begin to like this stuff. Belly pleasantly full of red at ABC, he settled back for a half hour of people watching. They came in all shapes, colors, and sizes. 6 small Japanese men popping out of a Toyota to quickly quench their thirst with draft beers. Men and women obviously making rendezvous. 2 Ghanaian men, our comrades, strolling into the collection of outdoor tables, their fingers interlocked. Interesting. The difference between customs. If 2 men walked around holding hands in New England or Texas, somebody might lock them up. Here it doesn't mean anything. That would make an interesting documentary, an exploration of how the same gestures, body language, can be interpreted in a different way depending on whose border you're within. More people smoking, buying cigarettes one by one. You brothers are in for some serious cancer in the years to come. 12:30. He paid his bill and wandered away from the coffee shop, wondering what to do with himself until 4:30. He's going to go over to the other lady's house. He strolled on the side of the road as far away from traffic as possible. Somebody ought to put some sidewalks up here. Human beings shouldn't have to share the same space with moving automobiles. What to do till 4:30? He began to compare Accra subconsciously with a few other foreign cities he had visited. It ain't Mexico City by a long shot. Madrid, nothing happening on the cafe level. Thank God it ain't New York. It's Accra, Ghana, West Africa, that's what it is. I'm feeling a little edgy because there's no neon lights in every block, or fake ways to stimulate jaded appetites, and no drive-by shootings, teenage gangs, and middle-aged gangs roaming around looking for fresh prey. None of the hostilities I've been accustomed to grin and bear. The Ghanaian glance was quick. Men took careful glances at the swaying hips, but didn't go in for the Mexican sex lust demon look. Aye. People are serious here. There's a lot of smiling and joking, but the undercurrent is serious. I guess it has to be if you look at the current CD times dollar exchange rate. People look at me, they give me the Ghanaian glance. But no one runs up to me with any kind of outrageous games. I like that. I like this place. I'm going to do a film here. The W.E.B. Du Bois Center for Pan-African Culture. Sorry, my brother. You'll have to excuse me for using these grounds at Osajifo, Kwame Nkrumah Ha, this is it. The W.E.B. Du Bois Center. This is the way it looks.
There you go. Okay.
Thank you for. That brings back pleasant memories. And some not so pleasant, which I'm going to get to. Sorry, my brother, you'll have to excuse me for using these grounds that Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah gave you as a way to kill a little time. Kojo had been to the Du Bois Center on his previous visit before he really understood what Du Bois had meant, what he represented. Well, he wasn't perfect, that's for sure. The grounds were peaceful, well laid out. A large dump grove of bamboo here, great shady trees above, only 2 commercial outlets, a small gift shop and a restaurant. He strolled the concrete path from one section to the other. Good afternoon. Oh, good afternoon. Ghanaians were meticulous about their greetings. No one made the mistake of saying good afternoon before noon and good morning a minute after 12. It must be an English hangover. Too bad they won't buy into the other parts of the time factor, like being on time. They call it African time, meaning that the meeting scheduled for 11 a.m. might not take place before 1 p.m. or later. Terrible habit to be like that. 3 Lebanese and 4 Japanese could take over the whole country, because if that's what they decided to do, they'd meet on time and do it. Chill out, Kojo. You're generalizing, and you can't generalize about people. Oh, pardon me, sir. Are you here for the meeting of the African American Club? No, I'm not. Who are they? The African American Club is a group of African Americans who meet here on Thursday. What time? The waiter studied his watch as though he was reading a thermometer. At 3 o'clock. Kojo checked his own watch. It's 2 o'clock now. I'd like to see what they're about. I can take a taxi from here to Grace's place. 3 o'clock, are you sure? Oh, yes, 3 o'clock. I'll have a Guinness stout. Is it cold? Yes, sir, very cold. A table under a shady tree, a well-chilled brew, no sweat. I thank my ancestors, and I thank the Orisha for making my return to Africa possible. I thank my ancestors, and I thank the Orisha for giving me a healthy body and a healthy mind. I thank my ancestors, and I thank the Orisha for all the blessings that I receive from now until the day I die. I beg my ancestors, and I beg the Orisha to keep me healthy, make me wealthy and wise. Kojo said his personal prayer in a whisper and dribbled a few drops of his beer on the ground. What better place in the world than this place to say my prayer? He tried to make himself as inconspicuous as possible to observe the members of the African American Club as they arrived. The staff of the Du Bois Center announced the location of the meeting by arranging 10 chairs in a circle. It was 10 minutes after 3, early by Ghanaian standards, when the first 2 members arrived. 2 well-upholstered middle-aged women wearing a mix of African and American clothes. He had to brush aside the idea he had in the back of his head that this was going to be a collection of fire-snorting, rapidly moving younger types. By 3:20, 5 of the chairs were filled, well filled, you know, by women who could have been called club women in the States. He decided to take a chance, find out the rules of the game. What the hell, what can they do but ask me to leave? I hope you'll pardon me for interrupting your meeting, but the waiter told me that you are all African Americans and that you have this club and you meet every Thursday. You're an African American, are you not? One of the early arrivals asked with a strong hint of Ghanaian guilt in her voice. Yes, I am. You are welcome. Please be seated. We will speak with you about permission to join the club as soon as we finish dealing with the minutes of our last meeting. He sat as directed and slyly studied the members. 4 decidedly middle-aged women and a younger middle-aged woman. They don't look like they've been working out too much or eating 900 calorie salads. The minutes of the last meeting seemed to go on and on. He made a surreptitious time check. 3:55. What the hell is wrong with me? The woman invited me to her house from 4:30, knocked at 4:30, and what the hell would it matter anyway? I'm in Ghana. How can I be late? Now then, Mr. Kojo Bediako Brown, did you say that you were an African American with a Ghanaian name? That's what my parents named me. Wow, where y'all coming from? He tried to make it sound as jocularly as he could. Would it make any difference if I were Ghanaian? He followed the exchange of loaded looks from one woman to the other. Once again, the early arrival with the pseudo-Ghanaian accent spoke. No, it wouldn't make any difference if you were Ghanaian or not. But the rules state that our organization is only open to African Americans from North America specifically. Kojo felt as though his chair was slipping out from under him. What if I were a Jamaican or a Cuban or a Brazilian? He could easily see that he had reached the bristling point with the group. The youngest of the group fixed him in the lower section of her bifocals and ground the words out. I believe Miss Quartet made it perfectly clear that we are an African American group. But Brazilians are African Americans. A stone wall fell between them. He waited for someone to say something for a few beats before he decided to stand up and leave. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to find out what your group is about. He imagined he heard something close to growling as he walked slowly away. Wow, unreal. On the grounds of the Du Bois Center for African American Culture, the man must be twisting and tossing with agony every Thursday. He walked the winding road, bogged down with heavy thoughts about the ladies, the situation, the baggage that many African Americans carry. Miss Quartet, probably married to a Ghanaian. How could they justify an African American only policy? Specifically, African Americans from North Africa. It was a denial of the diaspora. How the hell did he wind up? How the hell did we wind up in an elite position on the diaspora totem pole? Drop it, Kojo, drop it. Trying to be logical about illogical stuff is a guaranteed headache. Kojo exhaled a sigh of relief as Grace opened the door to her apartment and greeted him with a hug, and as usually a kiss. That's what he said too. Thank goodness she hasn't become an overweight sister. The overweight sister meant hours of sympathizing with the weight gain, being forced to listen to how it happened, future plans for future diets. He didn't think that he was an expert, but he had been put in the position of counselor to a couple of overweight girlfriends. She closed the door behind her. They took a few steps into the center of the room and squeezed him to her again. Oh, Kojo, it's been such a long time. She took his hands and held him at arm's length. You seem a bit more serious, but you haven't changed much physically. I'd say about the same for you. Matter of fact, I'd say you're looking damn good. To me. You could recall a time when that kind of language would have been received with a disapproving downturn of the corners of her mouth. Grace glowed with smiles at his compliment. You are welcome. Thank you. They held hands and looked into each other's face with open admiration. He could see her lips slowly moving toward his mouth. They kissed again, slowly, more thoughtfully. What's the deal here? It used to take hours before I could justify my wanting to kiss her. Now look at this. Kojo, I've missed you. I've missed you too, Grace. Oh, but I'm not being a gracious hostess. Please, be seated. Make yourself at home. Can I get you a drink? Wine, scotch, gin, beer? Scotch sounds wonderful. I have Johnny Walker, red and black. I'll take black. He stood in place watching her walk away from him to the kitchen. Girl, look at your body. He made a slow move around the room, listening to her pull the ice tray cube out, the ice cube tray out. Please, Kojo, play some music. I have albums, tapes. They are there under the bookshelves. Native Son, The Fire Next Time, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Messiah, The Wretched of the Earth, Before Columbus, Before the Mayflower, Wounded Knee, Black Indians, Ebonics, Master/Slave, Mixture of Massacre, Scars and Memories, Haiti, Who Shot Martin. Find anything you like? I was tempted to have music playing for your arrival, but I couldn't think of what would be appropriate. He liked the sound of her voice. It was a bit crisper than it had been, but the tone was the same and a bit hipper. I found a lot of like Coltrane, Ravel, Miles Davis, Stravinsky, Dizzy Gillespie, Alvin Berg, Man Knight, Magic, Mahalia Jackson, Winston Marsalis, Beethoven's 9 symphonies, Indonesian Gamelan Orchestra, Sounds of Spain, Billie Holiday and Carnegie Hall, griots of Mali, Ghana, traditional music, Cecil Taylor, David Murray, Gassim Badamantu, Mozart, The Fire, Ravi Shankar, Ali Araka, Mongo Santa Maria, Mando Peras, Francisco Obeya, Carlos Pita, Muddy Waters, Hollywood, B.B. King. Thought you said you found something. Yes, that's the problem. I found too much I like. She handed him a tumbler of scotch with 3 young ice cubes floating around in the liquor. Wow, to you, health and prosperity, and vice versa. They clicked glasses and took sips. Grace, what's happened to you? Last time I saw you were listening to gospel music, country and western, reading the Bible and praying every 15 minutes. And I've had many changes happen in my life since you were here, since we were together. I don't doubt it. Once again, they took unison sips. How would you like to listen to a little quartet in F major by Ravel? Oh yes, it's one of my favorite pieces of music. Now I have to finish the groundnut stew. I'll be with you in a little while.
Yeah?
Beautiful woman, ain't no doubt about it. Full up front and ample behind. Gorgeous body. Lovely face, full of nuances and animation. Brains. I never realized she had brains. Maybe I didn't pay that part of her attention before. He placed the music on the turntable, adjusted the sound, and strolled around. What we would call a 1-bedroom efficiency deal in California. After a few minutes, he could sum up the scene in a few words. Tasteful, clean, African. He settled himself on the sofa and soaked up the music and the scene. I'm in Africa, I'm in Grace Vivian Hlovor's apartment. Yeah. The third hard sip of scotch kicked in, that mellow buzz. I can see why the old man likes his Sheetus Regal. Kojo's eyes roamed the room and the doors leading from the room. Bedroom, probably. Toilet there. Grace in the kitchen. Grace in the kitchen. He tiptoed to the kitchen door. She was seated on a low stool, grinding something in a bowl, sipping from her glass every now and then. An African kitchen. A stalk of plantains in a corner, a large yam, a pestle and a mortar, onions and tomatoes on the kitchen sink. Hate to disturb you. Where's the little room? Second door on the left. It smells good. She turned a dazzling smile up at him and continued grinding. Kojo deliberately opened the first door on the right to check it out. The bedroom. Furnished in the same lean style, no excessive stuff cluttering up their eyes. A lovely African batik on the bed. The torch system didn't work. He was surprised to lift the stool top and discover leavings from other sittings. As one of his friends in our choir once put it, experimentally, he pushed the flush handle down. Nothing. Oh well. Grace was sitting on the sofa when he made his exit, her glass in her head and an enraptured look on her face. This section right here, this is what I like. Yeah, Ravel and all of those syncopated strings. He sat beside her and listened to the sounds. Yes, I like this section too. The humanities class at Los Angeles City College has opened its heads for the European composers one summer. His mother has been a guiding force. Don't get into an anti-European bag, Kojo. Try to understand the best parts of everybody's culture. Listen to their music. That's a good place to begin. His father was less open, less inclined to be tolerant. No, not the music. I can see myself clear to deal with the sciences and all that, but the music. Why would I want to suffer through all that white noise when I was raised up on William Grant Still and Charlie Parker?
Oh my.
I'm glad you've grown to appreciate a variety of music. Yes, it's true. I can clearly remember some of the fights we used to have about my love for Hank Snow, Willie Nelson, guys like that. Remember? It wasn't that I didn't think their music was valid. It was just a matter of perspective. How could I listen to the country and western guys, appreciate them knowing they had stolen the music from our people? Don't worry, Kojo. Your argument will be wasted on me now. She sealed off further discussion with a quick kiss. He was right in tune with her, but she was moving so much faster than she had moved once upon a time. Come, I prepared banku and groundnut stew with fish for you. Banku and groundnut stew with fish. Delicious idea. Wonderful flavors. They sprawled out on the floor with soft pillows under their heads after the dinner, fresh glasses of scotch in their hands. The music was Indian, ragas by Ravi Shankar. He felt at ease, pleased to be back with one of the African loves of his life. I think I can write comfort off the agenda. Grace, I don't want to sound so like I'm interrogating you or anything, but I'm dying to find out what brought about this change in you. I was thinking that you were going to stay at home until you got married, have 4 children the first year, become whatever the program called for. He studied the cleavage that made her breasts resemble 2 softly swelling mountains. They were both feeling warm and high from their 3rd glasses of scotch. So you want to know what happened? Do you really want to know? He leaned up on his left elbow to take a close look at her. Are you joking? Yeah, I want to know. Well, I must confess to you that you were a major element in the process. I know, I can see from the expression on your face that you find that difficult to believe, but it is true. After you left, I started seriously thinking about what we had done together, what you had done to me, the impact you had made on my life. I didn't feel any of that while I was here. I concealed a great deal from you, Kojo. While you were smirking at my innocence, I was going home to sleepless nights. I was thinking of all the things you knew that I didn't know anything about. I felt so very unsophisticated.
My.
I began to look at myself closely. I was trained to be a Christian. I didn't become one by inclination. I was sent to Accra Girls Secondary School. I didn't choose to go there. I was the well-bred, dutiful daughter of a middle-class Ghanaian family. My father was respected and my mother was influential. They died 3 years after you went back to America. First, mother from cancer that she never spoke about, she just suffered. And then my father from grief. I think when they died, a great number of restraints were removed. I couldn't embarrass them if I wore my hair like this, for example. The short, cropped, natural style seemed so right for her that he hadn't even noticed to comment on it. Or if I raised my voice in public. The rest of my family tried to rein me in, if you know what I mean, the way you pull in a wild horse, but it was too late. I had met a man of my own age who knew so much more about the world. Someone who was not asking me to wash his clothes or sweep his house. You were a revolution for me. Kojo sprawled back on the pillows on the floor, feeling real high, real good, a bit egotistical. So I did that, huh? That's what I did.
No.
That's what I did. She smiled at his egotistical glow. Eh, I can't really say you were the total force, but you see, you were certainly an element. Ravi Shankar and Ali Raka grabbed them both for a few moments. The sitar and the tablas created an intoxication of their own. And then what happened? Please remember, I've been away. Kojo felt that he was being stared at from a great height. I met an older African-American man who built on the foundation that you had established. You asked me for the truth. Do you want to hear? Kojo suddenly remembered a Ravi Shankar concert live at the Roxy Theater on Sunset Boulevard, where the master had asked the alcohol-drinking people to cease and desist. He felt the urge to invoke the kind of feeling, but it was too late. I don't think it can hurt me. Yeah. He could tell she was feeling drunker, more freer. Her language was slipping into tonal levels that he had to listen harder for. More Ghanaian. He worked for an agency and he was into Ghana, you understand? Yeah, I know what being into Ghana means. What? She was shaking him with her new approach. She didn't go around anymore. It means being into Ghana. She took a long sip of her scotch. Ravi Shankar had ended. She popped up and put her Horace Silver's album on. Horace Silver. Song for my father. Damn, where'd she get that from? She gracefully placed herself near him to talk. The man was 40 years old. He spoke Ga, Ewe, Fanti, Akan, and Hausa. He was as close to being a U.S. spy as anybody I'd ever met, but at the same time, he was into Ghana. You understand what I'm saying? Kojo nodded mechanically, feeling vaguely jealous and drunk. Yes, I understand what you're saying, I think. It wasn't so much a love thing that it was an educational thing. Many of the things you hinted at, he established. You had talked to me about jazz. He played the jazz music from ragtime to the neo-moderns. Ragtime, what the hell is ragtime? Remember, the boy was 25.
Yes, okay.
He brought the African-American civil rights struggle into focus. He opened my mind to the diaspora. He did so many things. What was his name? No, skip that. I don't want to know. Skip that. He carefully placed his glass off to one side, took her glass from between her splayed fingers, placed it on the side and pulled her closer to me. I feel good about being a foundation. They kissed, a long, down-to-earth kiss. He studied the glazed lights on the lake. They weren't far from their destination, Kokrobite. Another mile or so, a left turn, and then a long drive on the rutted red road. Grace squeezed Kojo's hands in the darkness of the back seat and tilted the glass of scotch to her lips with her free hand. Kokrobite, the beautiful seaside hotel complex where there was singing, drumming, and dancing on Sunday afternoon. Cultural things. He had gone there with Comfort during one of their wilder moments. He could never imagine that he'd be going there with Grace. He studied her profile. Beautiful African lady. I'm so glad you changed. Well, I had something to do with it, and what's his name, or whoever, thank God. The taxi seemed to be wading through a field of tall grass. Grace offered him the glass of scotch and said something to the driver in Tree. What did you say to him? I told him to drive faster and be more careful.
Okay.
He shared smiles with her, sipped the scotch. He felt mellow, romantic. They had made love on the floor of her apartment, a feverish event that barely gave him time to push the condom on. She had given him the kind of feeling he loved to have a woman give him. She was passionate, skillful in the use of her passion, and responsive. He loved that feeling of giving and receiving. They awoke from a deep sexual catnap, her head deadening the muscle in his right arm. They felt dreamy. He spoke softly in her ear. The French called that le petit mort, the little death. I call it the nap after Banku and fish stew. She was so removed from being the still, almost formal person she had been, that he found himself staring at her. Is this the Grace Hlovor that I once knew? The prude, the cold-hearted one who said, I'm only doing this because you insist. Kokrobite had been a word in the joint shower, an idea while they dried off, and a full-fledged motion within 15 minutes of conversation. Right now. All I have to do is stop at my hotel for a change of shorts. Tomorrow's Friday. How will you get off? Kojo, I am the person in charge of my department, and I made tentative arrangements to be absent after you call. Pretty sure of yourself, huh? Pretty sure of you. That ends chapter 4, almost. I'm going to leave the rest of them until we get there. Here we are at, this is little Kokrobite, not big Kokrobite. I'm going to continue.
Are you finished chapter 4?
No, I'm going to continue it tomorrow because there are a few more pages.
Oh, okay.
And I would be doing myself a disservice if I just kept on reading and reading and reading. And I would like to have a little bit saved so that you always want a little more.
I do.
Oh, but not yet, not yet.
It's not
I know
fair.
when we get into the boy-girl thing.
Yeah.
Save a little. But we'll be back at it tomorrow evening.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'd like to have a little toast for our latest vice presidential candidate.
Yes.
To Kamala Harris.
Yes, indeed.
And to you too, Joe.
Hey.
He's looking at you, Joe. You made a wise, good choice, and we're going to see this thing through.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I have to order the latest anti-Trump book by, Michael Cohen. What else is going to happen? Michael Cohen and the niece, Mrs. Trump, Mary Trump, and who else coming out of the woodwork?
Well, from fiction to reality, reality to fiction, moments in time.
I can't make a hard difference because sometimes I feel like I'm living during the pandemic. Don't you feel like you're having an out of body experience? You go outside and you see people looking like bandits. You know, I mean,
very true, very true.
Somebody might come up and stick a gun out, and it wouldn't be any different than anybody else.
Moving right along.
Just moving right along.
Okay, your books can be purchased on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Your website is www.odiehawkins.com. And this moment in time, you read most of chapter 4.
Yes.
Out of the Snake 2020.
2020.
Okay, we'll look forward to the finishing of chapter 4 or chapter 5?
That would be chapter
5, I think.
4 and going into 5.
I think you're in 5. But we'll determine for sure tomorrow.
I'm halfway through 4 and I'll be going into 5 tomorrow. Believe me. Let me look at it again. Because you're usually right about these things. I started reading Oh yes. Just got through. Oh, isn't it crazy? This is chapter
4.
4.
It's very
One
short.
page.
Yes, very short. Yes.
Okay, chapter 5.
So we read most of chapter 5. We're
and we'll be heading into 6.
Yes, we're ending at Kokrobite.
That's right.
Okay.
I call it Little Kokrobite because they have 2. There's a big one where they have festivals and stuff, and then there's a little sort of tourist hangout where they just hang out. So.
Gotcha. All right. Looking forward to it, Mr. Hawkins.
Me too.
All right. And thank you so much. And thank you for explaining the snake and the Snake 2020 versus the Snake 2020. Makes it much more understandable.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Ciao.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Ciao.